Hello, everybody. Adam Parks here with another episode of Receivables Roundtable. Today, I'm here with my good friend, Mr. Jimmy Chebat, who is the founder of ZiZo Technologies. How you doing today, Jimmy?
Doing great, Adam. Thanks for having me on.
Well, I've actually really been looking forward to this conversation because I think gamification is something that adds a lot of value to the end users, those that are actually doing the work. It helps management, and it does so many great things for an organization, specifically in the call center space. But before we get to that, I want to start at the beginning here. For those that have not been as lucky as me to get to know you personally through the years, could you tell everyone a little bit about yourself and how you got to the seat that you're in today?
Sure, absolutely. My career started a long time ago, as you can see by the gray hairs. Been a serial entrepreneur pretty much my whole entire adult life. I was in technology for the early stages in my early 20s. Found my way into the accounts receivable space and became an owner operator in a collections company. And from there, it's kind of that first introduction into where I am today. And, one of my early experiences was a little bit of culture shock with the workforce and, very different than what I was used to coming from technology, working with C-suite, business owners. And that's where I kind of started this concept of ZiZo. And it was called something different back then. It was more about accountability in performance management and people management, where I seen a gap between the systems of records that we were using in our agency versus what I needed as tools to manage my workforce. And so that was back in 2008 when I first got involved in the accounts receivable space. We grew our agency. I think at our largest point, we were about 150 agents, about 200, close to 200 employees, 3 locations. Also expanded into the debt buying space and, started a debt buying company. Up until about 2018, things had started to change and started to shift, with the workforce, and there was new challenges that were happening, new workforce coming in, Gen Z, a new generation, I should say, into the workforce. The gig economy really started creating a level of competition for labor, right? People can go and drive Uber and, deliver DoorDash. Wages were going up. We lost our competitive advantage in terms of the rate that we were paying over what was minimum wage, where it's kind of turned into more of a living wage. And so churn was happening much, much more, and our workforce was constantly evolving and changing. And then at that point, I recognized that there needed to be a shift and a change in the way we were managing our workforce. And I looked internally at what we were doing because this conversation was happening throughout the industry, and not just our industry, but any company that was dealing with frontline workers. So I set my mind into, okay, I'm going to go back. I'm going to launch this, and I'm going to focus it with gamification, because based on all my research, gamification was the most effective component of what I had designed early, and I wanted to rebuild it with an emphasis on that. So I sold my agencies and I committed to pursuing this software venture, and then COVID hit. Literally the month after I sold my agencies. I sold it in February of 2020, and COVID hit, and I had to look in the mirror like, what did I do? Did I make the right choice? It wasn't that long until I seen like COVID actually accelerated the problem, because it created a very new challenge of work from home. So you took your culture, you now fragmented it. It's now individualized. Everybody's on an island, and it just made the problem worse. So that's how I came to building ZiZo. We launched in 2021, and here we are in 2024 looking to expand and grow our company.
So focused on the gamification side of the business, and having come from being a serial entrepreneur to being an agency owner, participating in debt buying, and now being a service provider to that world. Talk to me about what it is that you have at ZiZo, what it is that you've built, and why you found it to be so important to go in that direction.
Yeah, looking at workforce management as a whole.
Mhm.
There are so many different ways you can look at it, and there's a lot of like traditional methods, which negative reinforcement, which you and I grew up in the same generation where people would say as leaders, hey, if you can't do X, there's the door, and
Mhm.
we need more from you, and if you don't like it, find a new job. That doesn't work anymore. And you see a lot of people are struggling to try to keep people in their seats and finding creative ways to find,
Yeah.
engagement tools and motivation. They're paying higher wages to attract talent and try to retain talent. And I recognize the fact that we needed to change. And, I come from a generation where we weren't very empathetic and we didn't really care about feelings. And this younger generation are very into their feelings. And, mental health is a very important part of, what they do in life. And that includes work. And so I had to kind of take a look inward and see, okay, what do I need to change? And so I've almost become an advocate for this frontline workforce, and to say, look, if all we have to do is just make their job more engaging, make it more rewarding, let's find recognition, let's have a conversation with them, and make sure that we're empathetic in a sense that, they have a sense of purpose and a sense of
Mhm.
belonging, especially in jobs that are repetitive tasks where, it's very easy to get burnt out pretty quickly. And, some people come in, they'll go through training and day one, they'll say, you know what, this isn't for me. And it does hurt the business. So my approach is, look, as advocating for the user actually benefits the business. And it's a
Mhm.
bottom up approach. First, we look at the frontline workers, the end user of this product, and make their jobs more engaging, more rewarding. And then we start to work our way up, and we start working with the managers and doing the same things with them, team leads, supervisors, directors, and above. So at some point, when we are doing this for the frontline workers, we begin to align their goals with the goals and objectives of the business, and everybody wins. So
Mhm.
that's our objective. Our goal is to make sure that everybody's happy. We don't compromise the business. We don't make the business pay for these things. Although they will be making an investment, they will get a return on their investment.
Fair enough. I mean, it sounds like, from a gamification perspective, you've contests are something that have always existed within the collection space, right? Or any call center environment in terms of generating a system of motivations. But
Mhm.
constantly having to be creative with how those things are created and how they're deployed is a challenging task for managers whose time could be better spent coaching or doing other things, right? Like to assist in the growth of the individuals around them. Talk to me a little bit about how you've kind of found interesting ways to create these games, reward and incentive programs to actually drive the camaraderie forward.
Yeah, I could probably talk about this for an hour. I know we don't have an hour to talk about it. So I'll try to be brief as possible. And yeah, gamification has some
Mm,
inherent negative aspects to it, right? One of them is, you do a contest and really there's only one or two or three participants, depending on who's getting rewarded at the end of the day. And in a culture that's traditionally gamified, like collections or
mm,
sales, where these contests happens, it's usually the same handful of people, your top performers, that kind of come away with that. And as a business owner or director or leader of an organization like that, well, that's deserving, right? But what you're doing is you're actually ostracizing everybody else and you're demotivating them. It's
mm,
almost like you're better off not doing a contest because 95% of your staff isn't even motivated by it. So the first thing we did is we tried to find a way to get 100% activation or participation, meaning everybody's participating every single day. And we do this by breaking it up into different buckets where it's daily challenges, milestones. That's you versus you. And it's objective and it's fair, because we have a rank level system that people come in and start off as rookies and then progress through the ranks just like you would in a video game. The
mm,
more you progress through the ranks, the more difficult the challenges, the bigger the rewards. And again, fair, objective, builds trust with the culture as well. But even your traditional contests, we didn't want to eliminate those. Those are always fun, but having a variety of contests and rules and different types of challenges with point systems or brackets or races or, first to this or that. But you said it administratively, that's very tedious and
Reward
time.
management, right? Like is a
Yeah,
real
and
thing.
absolutely. And we wanted to
Mhm.
automate the entire process, not just with the contest, but with everything. So what we do is we directly integrate with systems of record, not just a
Mhm.
single system, but multiple systems. So your time and attendance, your dialer, your phone system, your CRM, your collection software, all of that data comes into our data lake. We map it, we optimize it, we deliver business intelligence, and then we use those KPIs that drive the primary business objective, and we gamify those, and we make it very easy for managers to start a contest, and they don't have to administrate it. They don't have to pull reports. They don't have to calculate points. They don't have to distribute rewards. It's all done through the system. So yeah, we were very conscious based on my experience. Again, over 13 years of experience operating, even running gamification, seeing the good, bad, and the ugly, and
Mhm.
trying to eliminate, all of those bad things.
Well, let's talk about that data lake for a minute, right? Because the one statement that I've never heard in a collection agency's IT team is we have enough resources. I think it's interesting the way that you've found some different ways to integrate into the various data sets, normalize that information for use through the algorithms that you're running. Talk to me a little bit about what that experience is like from an agency's perspective who wants to deploy a tool set like this. You want to start motivating your collectors, like what's the IT lift to get started?
Yeah, and we're very blessed to have such a talented team in our integrations department that is able to work with your internal IT team or your vendors, right? Because you
Hmm.
don't always have direct access on premise systems. Usually, it's in the cloud or with a third party. So, and we have a lot of existing relationships with those vendors, so it makes
Hmm.
the integration process much easier.
Sure.
Getting access to the systems is only a part of it, right? We also, there's an intelligence component, the
You got to
business
understand what's
discovery.
inside it.
Yeah, not just that, but what's important to that each
Hmm.
individual's business model. What are their KPIs? You know, uh, we know, like if you take collections for example, and I know a large part of your audience is in accounts receivable. It's all about the dollars collected, right?
Hmm.
And that is the primary goal of the business and that department. And but there are things that drive that result, right? So we have categorized different KPI types. There's behavioral KPIs. Do you show up to work? Do you show up on time? Do you work your hours? Those are behaviors, right? We want to drive good behaviors. So we
Hmm.
use positive and negative reinforcement there. You don't show up to work, well, you get suspended from gameplay, or if you don't show up on time. So that helps people kind of, recreate or good behavior and try to drive good behavior. Then there's effort based KPIs, number of phone calls, right? It doesn't
Hmm.
require skill. It's more of an effort. How much phone calls do I make? How many talk offs do I get? And how many right party contacts? Then there are skill based KPIs like number of talk offs, right? How many deals do you close or get, and then instead of beginning promises, maybe it's green money or current money. When you close a
Hmm.
deal, do you get them to pay today, instead of promises to pay into the future? And, total dollars brought in and then cleared money. And so all of these KPIs are, every business has their own set of KPIs that they consider to be critical to their top line, their revenue.
Hmm.
And if not, then we try to help them reverse engineer that metric to see what are the things, the leading indicators that drive those objectives. And then within our algorithm, we also try to identify what's their requirements, what's their expectations. Somebody
Hmm.
coming out of training, what is their minimum expectation in all of those categories? And then, we find the ceiling in terms of what does a unicorn look like, a top performer in all of those categories in terms of expectations. And then our algorithm creates, different levels of expectations for every rank level in between. So again, a manager doesn't have to decide subjectively what I expect from Adam, right? It
Hmm.
is an objective algorithm that says, Adam is now a superstar and his expectations are a little bit higher than Jimmy, who is a rookie. And his expectations are higher, and so is his reward. So
Hmm.
now I'm not looking at Adam saying, why is he, getting more money than me? Well, it's objective, and I have the same opportunity to reach that same status and earn those same earnings as Adam. So it's beyond just gamification. It's objectivity, it's transparency, it's building trust between the organization and their workforce. And we do that. That's what we always say is we sell trust. The data has to be accurate. It has to be fair. It has to be inclusive. Everybody has the ability to earn and grow within the organization fairly and equitably.
So you're creating opportunities for a clear motivation across a variety of players within the organization, which is tough, right? Like again, I think that comes down to normalizing that data and trying to find that balance between the information that's available through the technology systems, integrating all of that back to a data lake, and then being able to drive those actionable intelligences from that perspective. Talk to me a little bit about some of the kind of the action items that you see management um, learning, understanding, and analyzing to kind of drive themselves forward or drive their organization forward as they're continuing to learn as all of that data is collected over time, right? I got to think one,
Mhm.
2, 3 years down the road of using that tool set, it should give you some pretty interesting insights.
Yeah, and actually, we want to remove that requirement and that task from humans, right?
Sure.
We want to give them that time to actually go and work with their team. I mean, we live in
Hmm.
in an age, the digital age with AI. I mean, I think we're going into a new age, right, with AI, that all that analysis is done automatically, right? And we're
Hmm.
delivering you the insights that tell you very specifically, and we do it in a fun and engaging way. It's clearly communicated through color codes and fun chests and rewards and things that say,
Hmm.
hey, you need to go and talk to these three people and coach them in training on these objectives, on these metrics, and you need to go talk to these three people over here and recognize them and thank them for their contributions and their success, and make sure that they get recognized physically directly from you. Although we do all of that automatically through the system and digitally, and
Hmm.
it's nice to have that human interaction. So we do want to kind of revolutionize. I know that's a very strong term. We sometimes use the term modernize, which is, I think, rightfully so. There needs to be a modernization of workforce
Hmm.
management using great new tools, but also revolutionizing the role of the manager to say, you don't have to pull reports anymore. You don't have to analyze. You don't have to go and discipline. All this could be done automatically through here. Your job is to be a happiness engineer and find more fun ways to engage with your team, because this new generation that's coming into the workforce, they don't respond to negative reinforcement, right?
Hmm.
They want that positivity. They want you to care about them. They want to have a sense of purpose and sense of belonging. And if they feel like you care about what's going on in their lives, because if you're suffering from a performance standpoint, Adam, my job isn't to come and say, hey, you need to do better. It's to say, hey, Adam, what's going on? Like, I see that your numbers down a little bit. What could I do to help you? Like, what are
Hmm.
the areas that you need assistance with? And maybe it's like,
Empowering.
you know what,
Yeah.
I'm just having a bad day. Thank you. Like, and when you see that I care, you're going to care more about the job, and you're going to stay there longer.
Agreed. I think it provides an interesting perspective. Every time I'm walking around in Las Vegas, I think to myself as I watch people sitting there pulling on, I guess it's not pulling, I guess now it's pushing a button.
Pushing,
But like
yeah.
every time that I'm walking around and I'm looking at it, I think about the opportunities to engage a workforce. We've got them sitting in front of a screen. How can we improve their overall experience of spending time in front of that screen, trying to
Mhm.
accomplish a common task? And I think gamification is a big part of the opportunity for the future in terms of maintaining these competitive opportunities to provide employment solutions around the country, right? It's becoming more difficult, and I think as you start to see, more BPO services operating on a global scale, it's these types of tools I think that really provide some interesting opportunities to create a competitive advantage out of the people that you're employing. And ultimately, the more that we can engage the people that we're working with, the better our organizations are going to run.
Yeah, I totally agree. And when you look at the impact and the effect of gamification across many other industries and spaces, like
Mhm.
education, like fitness, like, any sort of learning where they implemented it, and look at,
Duolingo.
Social media, yeah. I mean, if
Yeah,
you have an Apple Watch closing your rings, Peloton, competing with leaderboards, Starbucks earning Starbucks reward points, and be able to redeem them. It's a highly effective tool, and why not bring it to work? Especially with frontline workers, where their job is not the most fun job in the world, right? It's not a
sure.
career for most people. So while they're there, make it engaging, make it fun, and make it rewarding. And yes, let's splash some coins. Ding, 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 ding. People respond to that. So leverage those mechanics and let's keep them having fun.
I like the way that you're looking at it, Jimmy. Thank you for coming on today and having a conversation with me. I really appreciate your insights and you coming on and just having a chat.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
For those of you that are watching, if you have additional questions you'd like to ask Jimmy or myself, you can ask those in the comments below on LinkedIn and YouTube, and we'll be responding to those. Or if you have additional topics you'd like to see us discuss, you can leave those in the comments below as well. And hopefully I can get Jimmy to come back at least one more time to help me continue to create great content for a great industry. But until next time, Jimmy, thanks for coming on again. I really do appreciate you.
Thank you, Adam.
And thank you everybody for watching. We'll see you again soon. Thanks so much, everyone.